And welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the HighLowSports podcast. We appreciate y'all for joining us here this Wednesday evening for it is one of your favorite places to check out podcasts later on in the week. Hopefully, you're fully recovered from either your celebration, your coping, or your, you know what, thank goodness it is over, hangover after the Super Bowl Sunday. It has definitely been a busy week for those with a rooting interest. It is DJ joined as always by my co-host Kelcey. And you know what, Kelcey? We had a pregame show for it. We talked a lot about it. And it went exactly how absolutely nobody outside of a few drunks on Broad Street expected it to go.
Yeah, it was a fun one. It was, if you're one-sided, I guess it was fun. If you're rooting for the downfall, it was fun. But no, I think there's something to be said about every Super Bowl. It has its own fun moments, like Jameis Winston on literally all of Bourbon Street by himself with a microphone, just being Jameis Winston. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot of fun things around the Super Bowl, and then obviously the game itself was what it was. So yeah, I don't know.
Say Jameis Winston with a microphone. That is a reality TV show that I can always 100% support at any given moment, and hopefully they make that a full-time thing, not just a Super Bowl thing. Give him Broad Street, Bourbon Street, just give him a bunch of streets throughout the country to be able to tour Main Street. Give him a microphone and let him just take on the town. But you know what? That's kind of a good leeway into what our first part of the show is, and that is, of course, the tip-off. Tip-off brought to you by our good friends over at SeatGeek. Use code BellyUpSports for $20 off your first purchase for any tickets for comedy shows, sporting events, concerts, you name it. They got tickets for Belly Up Sports for $20 off. And we already alluded to it. Super Bowl, a bludgeoning from some Broad Street buffoons that left the Chiefs absolutely, well, basically sitting there completely destroyed it. 22-40, and it wasn't even that close. One of those touchdowns came after the Gatorade bath, for all you need to know. We all kind of talked about it going into it. On paper, the Eagles are the better team on paper. You go top to bottom roster, all of that. They checked a lot more boxes, but the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes thing, the three-peat, they're inevitable. It was basically the theme all year. And then the inevitability just completely ran dry. They not only did it run dry, it ran dry in a hurry to the point where Mahomes, as our good friend Hector is pointing out, some garbage time stats after playing an absolutely terrible game, and the Chiefs were pretty much miserable after the first 2 minutes, really, is what it felt like, to the point where Cooper DeJean completely revolutionized an entire brand of position, is what we will leave it as, with his pick six. Completely changed a few different narratives with that. But Kelcey, how did we get to this point where it's 40-22? Like, what happened to the inevitable three-peat dynasty to the point where the Eagles bludgeoned them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of simple in a lot of ways. The Eagles do what they have. They did their best with what they have, and that was the pass game and a great defense. Specifically, that defense really set them up. I mean, the fact you can turn Patty over, who hadn't been turned over very often this season, and do it in the ways that the Eagles did was insane. On top of that, to actually trust Jalen, which I've been asking for going into the Super Bowl every time over on Jared's show, on our show, you name it. I was hoping their pass game would be unleashing everything, and it's exactly what happened. That pass game was crucial. Jalen played nearly exceptional. I mean, I say nearly just because, well, he did have one pick, but honestly, beyond that, it was a great Super Bowl for Jalen. And, you know, it was just a conflux of events. You always have the moment where we talk about winning a third time in a regular season's already hard enough. Well, try winning a third Super Bowl in a row. That's like becomes like 100 times as hard as winning 3 times in a season against the same team. You just win a Super Bowl, period, is already harder than that. And then 3 Super Bowls, good luck. So yeah, that's how we got here. Is just the Eagles played the better game. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, the Chiefs just couldn't do anything. They couldn't get open. They couldn't do anything until it was too late, and Xavier Worthy was blowing by guys that are backups. So.
Absolutely. What I think surprised me the most about it is they did all of this with Saquon being completely held in check too. I mean, he had like 15 carries for 30 yards or something like that at one point. They did the job of nullify Saquon Barkley, make Jalen beat you. The problem is Jalen Hurts not only beat you, he was focused on the goal, and the goal was the focus, and he got it done. The bomb to Devontae Smith, finding A.J. Brown, what he did with his legs was exceptional as well. Defensively, as you mentioned, they they gave the Chiefs nothing. They did not give them an inch. They more or less in a lot of situations they lined up and just said beat us 1-on-1, and nobody on the Chiefs was able to do that. And then the one time we did see, we kind of knew it was going to be bad mojo too. DeAndre Hopkins gets wide open, completely uncovered on that crossing route towards the end of the half, and drops the ball. Probably the most open he has been in a very long time. Probably the easiest catch he's had in his entire career, and unable to pull it in. So I guess it was more of two. I was surprised that it was so one sided early. Like we kind of the thought was if the Eagles are going to win, they're going to have to win comfortably because what the Chiefs do in close games, and they did exactly that. Not only they didn't let the Chiefs get anything. If the Chiefs would have got something early and then they started stopping, I don't know, something like that, maybe that would have made more sense. But the fact that they held him to 0 through a half, I never thought I'd see the day. It was that was I think what was most shocking. Cooper DeJean with the pick six almost locked himself up a Super Bowl MVP on his birthday until Jalen went full Jalen to round it out. Saquon Barkley on his birthday as well, getting a chance to get the last laugh over Joe Shannon's squad. So honestly, I don't want to say it was worse than like the Denver Seattle Super Bowl from 2013. I don't think it was quite that one sided, but it was probably close. I mean, Kansas City and Tampa maybe was kind of close too, but this felt like a very one sided bludgeoning to the like similar of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, this is what was supposed to happen the last time they met, right? The pass rush for the Eagles being too good, too fast, too unstoppable against the Chiefs' offensive line, who looked like Swiss cheese at times. Like, this is exactly what Eagles fans had hoped for 2 years ago. And instead, this is what happens when you get a team who just feels like they're the underdogs and who loves that underdog role, and a team that just honestly, it feels like their ego got in front of them. You know, it feels like how to go to another sport, the Warriors Lakers were. You know, going back and forth, it felt inevitable you'd get Warriors Lakers year after year after year, and then or Warriors and LeBron, I should say, Warriors Cavs, then Warriors Lakers. Sorry, Warriors Cavs, pretty much 4 years in a row, but felt inevitable. And then at the end of the day, you know, the Warriors fall off a cliff. And this is kind of what happens with teams when they start to end up there year after year after year. You almost feel invincible. You feel like you can turn it on at any given point. And then you realize that sometimes you go up against a team that is just way more athletic, way more skilled, way more talented at the current game, and you didn't get off on the right foot. And now you're playing behind the eight ball and everybody's making mistakes. And I do want to point out that we've long talked about Patty's struggles reading defenses. This has always been a thing. He himself has admitted it not even 3 years ago in the offseason that he has always struggled reading defenses. He's gotten better at it, but he still feels he needs to get better at it. And it seems like the same demons that were giving him trouble before this Super Bowl run started to rear their ugly head again, where he just wasn't looking. Cooper DeJean's interception, he didn't. I don't know what he saw, but there was no receiver close to that ball. The receiver's 6 yards deeper, running to the sideline. He's throwing that inside. And then Cooper's sitting below the pass. Like, how do you think that's going to ever fit in? I don't know what he was thinking. And that's the question I have with looking at Patty is just like, what are we doing here?
The fluorescent light was bouncing off of Cooper's skin and it kind of blinded Patty. He's like, that's nothing. That's just a glare. God. It's like, oh, wait, no, that's a human. My bad. The bright skin got him.
Oh, the exciting whites turned into the bright whites. You know,
on the brightest stage, they were the most exciting.
What is the old light bright little coloring system? Yeah, just a bunch of white pins instead. No, I just wonder when I look at Patty, was his team filling a lot of the holes still to his game, or did this could just be a situation where he finally just had a really bad game again, and we haven't seen that out of Patty recently. It's been a while since we've seen this level of bad from Patty. And that's the thing I look at it like, I don't know, man. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. But the Eagles, I mean, look, I don't want to take anything away from the Eagles. They played a heck of a game. It was called perfectly from both sides. The fact Sirianni called out Kellen Moore afterwards and said, you know, hey, let's run it back again. I feel bad for Kellen Moore, obviously staying in New Orleans, but like, I think that's a situation where Sirianni's right. If both coaches wanted to keep winning Super Bowls, I have a hard time saying maybe don't do that. Maybe just stay in Philly. So Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a great game from the Eagles, but the Chiefs, there was a lot of holes that got exposed by a really talented Eagles team.
I do want to point out kind of an ironic point that you mentioned earlier. 2 years ago, when they met in the Super Bowl, the Eagles led the league in like sacks with like 70 or something along those lines. And Patrick was coming in with a busted up ankle. Yet in that game, they did not get to him once. I know everyone's talking about the turf and all of that, but I don't want to hear that. You had 70
Yeah.
sacks on the season and didn't get to him once.
Change your
This year,
cleats.
the
You'll be
Eagles,
fine.
This year, the Eagles were in the middle of the pack for sacks, and that offensive line down the stretch after moving Joe Tooney to left tackle had been relatively decent. And then in this one, it flipped on its head where they got to him like 7 or 8 times or whatever it was. So it's kind of funny how expectations were very much subverted in the game. What I do want to point out, too, is you mentioned with the Eagles, they do one thing that I think is very, very impressive, and I kind of wish I got some royalties for it, is they watch our podcast. I know that based on their draft classes, because nobody else had Nolan Smith rated as highly as we did, especially me. You can go check our previous episodes in our draft boards, and they took him, and they got him at 31. Jalen Carter, we kind of made sense with him sliding down the board for those reasons. Last year, nobody was higher on Quinyon Mitchell than I was. The draft board has him as the best defensive player in the draft. You could watch our live draft show when he didn't go number 15 like he should have. The exasperation in my face said it all. And the Cooper DeJean can play corner. They've clearly watched the podcast, so it worked because they took DJ's picks and it worked. And
We've been talking about Cooper since he tore his ACL in college. No, sorry, that was Riley Moss. But still, he was on the same team with Riley Moss.
Wrong exciting white. Less exciting white.
Yeah, it was the other exciting white
thing
in the draft.
The slightly less exciting white. But the reason I pointed to all that is because all those young players on the Eagles puts them in a position where they could possibly be trying to maybe repeat, go forward, keep going. Because most of those players we mentioned are 24, 25, 26 or under. If I'm not, Saquon Barkley is like 28, give or take. A.J. Brown's in that same region. A lot of the players are young and coming back and on relatively workable contracts. So is there a chance they can keep flying high and maybe pull for a repeat or a 2 out of 3 years, anything along those lines? Or does this feel like maybe does it almost feel like this was their run, then we're going to come back to them being a very good team, maybe get back in a couple of years, something like that? Or does this have a chance to, can they mimic the Chiefs of what we've seen the Chiefs do the last couple of years per se? What do you think the odds are on them getting back?
Really, 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 really high if they can replace Kellen Moore with a competent OC. I think their offense and here's the thing that I think is underrated by what Kellen Moore did this year. Kellen Moore is known for his passing offenses. That's his style of play calling. He said, "You know what? Nah, that's not working for us." Midway through the season, converts to a 50-50, a purely 50-50 offense. And it worked exceptionally. I'm not saying that he wasn't still running Saquon like a horse before that, but it was very obvious in the second half of the season, especially, that this man was dictating the game by how Saquon got off to a start. And that, as an OC, showed a level of competency with how excellent your roster is, from offensive line to receivers to tight ends. That level of an OC is not easy to come by. And I've long talked about Nick Sirianni as an OC / head coach is not a good fit for Philly. And he talked about the fact he cannot manage the game as a head coach should if he's calling plays. And I think that's the important crux here is now Kellen Moore, he had another head coach with him. So how can you replace this hole going forward of Kellen Moore being gone with a competent OC? Somebody who can fill the holes left, not necessarily by Kellen, but by Sirianni not calling plays. How do you fill that gap? And then also, how do you fill it with somebody who is going to be selfless in a lot of ways, where you talk about coaches having egos? We've talked about this many times on the show, especially we talk about quarterbacks and athletic quarterbacks. Like, Jalen is a freak athlete, but Jalen also needs a coordinator who's going to call a game so Jalen's comfortable. And you have Saquon, you have AJ Brown, you have Devontae, you might have Dallas Goedert plus another tight end in the future. Like, there's a lot of opportunity for an OC to walk in and be like, "Oh, I have so much. Let me just drop the craziest plays, Harlem Globetrotter style." But can they step back and then call a real game, call a good coordinated game? And that's the thing that the Eagles are going to need to go forward. The talent is absolutely there. They are built for the next 3 to 5 years, given what they can do with contracts. Roseman's proved it time and time again. He knows what he's doing, whether it's free agency or bringing in players on contracts or re-signing players. He makes that team click when it comes to the front office side. I'm not concerned there. It is just purely down to how do you fill this OC hole? Because that right now is your biggest concern. And small odds, but there are odds that Vic Fangio leaves. And that also becomes you have your third head coach on the team if he leaves, walking away. How do you fill that hole? But I'm going to start with the one obvious one that is very real as of the recent news. How do you fill the Kellen Moore hole? That's the only thing stopping the Eagles from continuing to be good.
I will say I would love to see Lane Kiffin in that spot. I know it's not going to happen. He's not leaving Ole Miss, but I think that type of offense he runs, that would be something else with some of the players you have there. So I think him with Jalen Hurts, along with AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, that would be something I think that could be a lot of fun. And as you mentioned, someone with, albeit not elite head coaching experience at the NFL level, he has been a head coach at the level and a successful head coach at college. And you just need him to basically manage that offense, the way he calls plays, the way the offense is designed. What Matt Corral, Jackson Dart, and those boys have done in it, I think Jalen Hurts with AJ Brown and those guys in that offensive line can have a lot of fun. That's never going to happen, so we're going to just get past that. I do also kind of want to. I think it's clear to say Howie Roseman has the title as best GM in the NFL right now. I think that's relatively safe to say when you include
I don't
roster
think it's
building,
close.
drafting. What was that?
I don't think it's close either.
Okay, I thought you were saying like you don't think he's close. I was like, well, I want to know.
Oh no, I just don't think. I don't think it's close at all. I think he has this well enwrapped. It's easy best
when you factor in the drafting plus free agent signing plus roster building to the point that it fits the scheme plus making the salary cap work. Like there's a lot to it, not just hoarding money to be a Fruit Loop like some guy in Indiana would do, but also not overspending and putting yourself in a hole like what New Orleans has done for the last 2 decades. But finding a way to balance it out in a way that makes sense. Signing a quarterback to that huge lucrative deal that he earned without hamstringing yourself to an anvil like some team by the lake might have done and completely set themselves up for failure for 5 years. No names required here. The last thing I'll kind of mention with the Eagles too is they have every reason that they can keep flying high. The problem is nobody in the NFC East has won the division in back-to-back years for 20 years. So I need somebody to win that and the NFC East to win the division back-to-back years for I'm going to give them back-to-back rings. But they're as well positioned to do it as anyone. And I'd say significantly better than, remember when they came off that Super Bowl loss and they had Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, everyone's like, oh, they're back. This team coming back is much better than that team coming back because, like you mentioned, the coordinators, the young talent they replaced at those key positions like defensive back and getting those kids out there to play like we begged for in the summer and it worked. And the defensive linemen now young too. So I think they're well positioned for it, but I'm holding out just a little bit. The one thing we have talked a lot about the Eagles in the Super Bowl. We'll have to talk a little bit about the Chiefs as well too, and it kind of all starts at the helm with number 15, who, you know what, I don't know what was going on in his mind, but the Mahomes magic just wasn't really there for that game.
Yeah, not at all, unfortunately. When it comes to keeping your mind in the game, there is one lucky thing that we have going for us that maybe Patty doesn't, and maybe he needs to look into it. That is Magic Mind. If you guys haven't checked it out before, Magic Mind is, here you go. Boom. This little shot right here is a mental performance shot. I take it with my breakfast, just take it with my coffee. It doesn't replace anything, but it is all natural ingredients. It has mushroom nootropics and all the vitamin C I need for a day. Helps me keep my mind focused, clear that midday brain fog, which, DJ, you've heard me talk about on the show before. I struggle with that more than anybody. Really, especially today, like days like today where I'm up and at it 5 a.m, don't get home until 6:45, 7 o'clock, and then hope I get to it. This keeps me going all day, keeps me motivated and productive, and reduces the stress, which is crucial for somebody like Patty. I couldn't imagine being an NFL quarterback and taking all that stress. And with his level of reach, that's got to be a lot of stress. But all natural mushroom nootropics, adaptogens, plus, like I said, 100% of your daily vitamin C and D per bottle. Well worth it. And our good friends over at Magic Mind, right now you can get a limited time offer through them for this mental performance shot. 48% off your first subscription or 20% off of a one-time purchase with the code HLSports20. So HL Sports 20, like HighLowSports. HL Sports 20 at checkout. You can claim it down in the link in our bio, magicmind.com/HighLowSports20. Go get your mental performance shot. Trust me, you won't regret it. I've been drinking them now for almost a year. Absolutely been fantastic. Shout out to Magic Mind for keeping me supplied and keeping me getting through the day. Again, go check out your mental performance shot. 48% off your first subscription or 20% off one-time purchases with code HLSports20 at checkout, or claim it at magicmind.com/HLSports20 down in the description below.
Absolutely. It's just what you need sometimes. Any given moment, it could get your head back in the game if it's a little bit off. It could help you lock in. It can help you. Even if you're already in the right spot, it can keep you there. It can avoid that. It can avoid you from falling up. So once again, go check the link in the description. Someone who really can use some Magic Mind was Magic Bad and Patrick Mahomes, who it's safe to say might have played his worst game in the last couple of years. Definitely the worst playoff game we've seen since arguably ever, honestly. I mean, it might really have been because, and this is if you kind of exclude those late touchdowns to Xavier Worthy, which, by the way, that last one I know was against the backups, but that F it he out there somewhere touchdown, threw it 63 yards more or less in a perfect dart. That was probably one of the better throws of the season. It just meant absolutely nothing. And I know it was against backups. I know it was irrelevant. I'm simply pointing out the ludicrousy of that throw where he simply basically just hits the bucket's drop. And he's like, drops it in a bucket where Xavier Worthy can run to it. One of the best throws of the season, means absolutely nothing. But obviously, going into the game, the narrative was Patrick Mahomes chasing Tom Brady, chasing GOAT status. The 7-year run he's on to start his career, best we've ever seen when you factor in regular season and postseason. 3 rings, 3 Super Bowl MVPs. We all know the stats. We've seen him at nauseam for 2 weeks. Problem is, I don't think him losing wasn't the only thing. It was the way that nothing worked whatsoever. He looked lost. The happy feet were there that Tom Brady was noticing as well, maybe with a little bit of salt in that wound, but I digress. There wasn't seeing the field. The pick to Cooper DeJean. He was just really off. So my question to you, Kelcey, is we're going to go with the full speculation. Does this alter his legacy long term? Is it just, it's a bad loss, he'll bounce back, everyone has them? Or is his GOAT conversation done? Are we going to give him the LeBron 2011 treatment of it's over, it's a wrap?
No, I will not give him that treatment because guess what? Tom Brady was 7-3 in Super Bowls. Brady and Patty has lost 2.
So he's 3-2 now, which is what Brady was after 5 as well.
Exactly. So look, the interception to the internet is ripe with interception to touchdown ratio conversation between Brady and Patty. The fact is this: Patty is still the best current age quarterback, current generation quarterback we have in the league. To this point, through his career, through the last 10 years or 8 years, whatever it's been now, he is the league's best quarterback. Does it change his long-term legacy? I don't know, because I don't know what he's going to do for the next 5 to 7 years. But does it change the de facto GOAT status? Like immediately putting him as the all-time best or winningest quarterbacks? Yes, that will change. I don't think that there's any question about that. And that's just because you didn't win 3 in a row. Mind you, nobody else has either in the Super Bowl era. So I'm not going to say his legacy is completely altered, but he goes from being on a path of pure and untouchable GOAT status to now, well, he's in the pantheon of greats already. What else can he do? At this point in time, if he retired tomorrow, he still has one of the best stretches as a starting quarterback all time. And I think he enters the Hall of Fame in 1 to 2 ballots. That's how good of a career he has. He should be first ballot. But if he had won, it's assured unanimous type of, we're talking Mariano Rivera baseball level entry into Hall of Fame levels. But this is a situation now. Okay, now you're human. Go prove it to the rest of the world that you're still one of the best. Cool. It's hard to say a legacy alters just because you lost 1 Super Bowl when you've won 2 straight and you've only lost 2 and you have a 3rd victory in there. It's hard to say, yeah, no, not good enough. Not one of the all-time greats, especially coming from a guy who spent 26 plus years, 25 years as a Cowboys fan and never seen a Super Bowl for the Cowboys. Yeah. I mean, I see 1 Super Bowl, I would be ecstatic. This dude's seen 3 as a player. I've seen 5 as a player, 3 as a victor. Like his legacy is pretty well already etching itself in stone. So no, it doesn't alter his long-term legacy just because he still has a lot of play. But yeah, it might alter the fact that he's not an all-time great. Period.
If he retired tomorrow, just said, you know what, me and Brittany are going to make 19 kids. I'm not playing anymore. That's it. That's a wrap. He is still probably top 5, if not Mount Rushmore status. You can make the argument with longevity, et cetera, whatever. But it feels almost, it's 3 Super Bowls, 3 MVPs, one of a handful of quarterbacks with 50 touchdowns and 5K yards in a season, 2 regular season MVPs, just absolutely ridiculous as well. Multiple time first team All-Pro, all the numbers, all that. What I do think it does is it elongates that Route 2 GOAT status just a touch longer, because if you have a three-peat, which nobody else has done on it, presumably Super Bowl MVP again, we're just going to go with the trend on this one. So you have 4 of them. You'd have 4 in before the time you turn 30. I think it shortens that route to catching Tom, where even if you don't get 7 rings or 6, maybe you end with 5. But what you did makes it so like, okay, that was greater. If that makes sense. It's the LeBron and Jordan with the rings. He doesn't have 6, it doesn't count. Well, no, if he would have had like 4, but had fewer losses, blah, 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 et cetera, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think it just elongates it, but he's also 29 years old. He's going to turn 30. Great quarterbacks these days. Let's just be generous and say he plays till he's 40. Let's just give him 40, because if Aaron and Tom and Drew and all them can do it, we're going to say he can go till 40 and he wants to. You're telling me he doesn't win another one during that time? Like it's very possible. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's very possible. We saw Tom go 10 years between them, but I think there's a Aaron good Rodgers. Chance he can. Exactly. Like, he can never go back. He could win a couple more. This could just be the start of his villain arc. So I think it's too premature to write off an already top 5 resume of all time. A guy who's already basically in the pantheon of greatness, like you mentioned. It just makes his path towards being number 1 a little bit longer. But if he's as determined as they all say he is behind the scenes, the football nerd they say he is, with his ketchup eating steak criminal behavior, there's still plenty of time. What I'm really curious to see that I think will help him is, as we could all very visually see, Travis Kelce's time with Kansas City is running shorter and shorter. I'm not going to say he's retiring, but we obviously know Patrick's going to be there longer, barring some very, very shocking turn of events. What he does without Travis, I think, is going to help him a lot, kind of like what we saw Tom do. We saw him do with that first run with those elite defenses. Then we saw that second act where he did with Gronk, Edelman, etc., where he was the leading catalyst. There was no doubt, basically. So I think that second part of his career, and the question will be Andy Reid. How long is he around too? Because he's also not a spring chicken. If he has to get another head coach and can do it with another coach, that always helps. I think that's what helped Tom solidify, was that run in Tampa Bay. I know he already had the 6 rings, all of that, but seeing him do it without Bill and doing it in a different system, a whole new set of coaches, I think that kind of helps too. So this is honestly, I put this topic in here to be funny. Like, this is something that we both kind of agree on. Like, obviously it's a single game. He played bad. He's got probably 11 years left in his career, if not more, if he wants it. He'll be fine. He's already a first ballot Hall of Famer yesterday.
Yeah. I do want to point out something, because you mentioned Travis. And yeah, I know we're talking Patty legacy, but I do think Travis's legacy, we can have that conversation on as well. And the reason I want to bring it up is we have been so pampered by what Travis has done through his career. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. He has been the all-time great tight end. Second best right now, arguably, statistically. Barely second best
receiver of all time, not named Jerry Rice, and offensive player, really.
Exactly. And now we're putting him, like, we are so pampered by him as a tight end. We are putting him in the category of receiver just to make sure he's not the greatest in a stat, right? That's where he is. Like, we have nothing else to compare him to other than the fact there are receivers with slightly better stats. One receiver specifically, Jerry Rice specifically. So I think this is a situation. I'm looking at his stats this year. Yeah, 848 yards. Not good enough for Travis Kelce, but you put that stat line on any other tight end across the league, not named George Kittle, and you feel great about your tight end having 848 yards on the year. That would be ecstatic for anybody else. You put a stat line of 34 yards in a Super Bowl for a tight end, you're like, man, this feels really good. But, and this is the but, and it does tie into Patty's legacy, is I think what we've seen since 2000 especially, every great quarterback has a good tight end, has an exceptionally good tight end. Peyton in Dallas, that was a great combination. You can say Tony Romo and Jason Witten. Obviously, I'm not talking Tony great, but good quarterback, great tight end. You had Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham for years. You had Matt Ryan and Tony
Tony
Gonzalez,
Gonzalez.
2 Hall of Famers. You have Tom Brady, Gronk. Like, that's a great combination. We know how world class that is. You had Patty and Travis. So I would say, like, I don't know if it needs world class level from Travis year in and year out. I don't know if he's there yet at his career. If he retires, obviously I talked about it a lot leading up. That is a potential. I don't think it's not a potential. But I also think, realistically speaking, I don't know if he's ready to retire yet because he's still putting up pro level tight end numbers, good pro level tight end numbers. He's just not putting up the world class Travis Kelcey type of tight end numbers. And I think that's the legacy. If we're talking about a legacy that's altered by everything, that maybe we need to look at is like, how much does Travis really lose from this performance or even this season? Like, in reality, I don't think it's a lot, but like, DJ, what do you think? Like, is it a lot to Travis Kelce that he lost here from the Super Bowl?
No, he was a first ballot Hall of Famer 3 years ago. Like right now, he's locked in. All that happened for this playoff run really was he didn't catch all of Jerry's records, I don't believe. So he's still second on a couple of them in postseason records. Still the best receiving tight end of all time. We could split hairs with, he doesn't block, whatever. Statistically speaking, the best tight end of all time, but won't dive too deep into that. What you mentioned, his numbers, pretty good. I mean, by Travis Kelce standards, no. For your top receiving threat on your team, that's a little concerning, which is where I think the problem is for sure. What I think really hurt this team too, and I think will hurt them in the long run, is what happens with Rashee Rice. Because we saw early in the season, that was the dude. That was the top receiving threat for Kansas City that first month. That was the heir apparent to, all right, Travis can slide into that second receiving option as soon as they don't take their eyes off him. He's somehow wide open, like he always finds a way to get, but they have to watch Rashee Rice. And I think losing him, I don't think it changes this game a whole lot. I think the Eagles are firing on all cylinders. But I think long-term success of if they can rekindle this dynastic run or somehow just bounce back next year and just not miss a beat is going to depend on what happens with Rashee Rice. Or if they bring in somebody that could do everything he was doing. I won't get into what's going to happen with him. That's a lot of miles and miles over the speed limit for me to worry about right now. But I think if they need to find someone that could give that type of early production from a receiving standpoint, whether it's Noah Gray or something, I don't know. Like, that's obviously sarcastic, but if they have something that can match that level of receiving threat, that could fill in what they're missing with Travis, as he is not Travis Kelce right now. Still a good player, like you mentioned. Still a Hall of Famer, first ballot, and if he's not, it's a travesty. We're everyone in short-term memory at watching that Super Bowl, like prisoners of the moment, will forget how good he exactly is. But for me, not affected at all. First ballot Hall of Famer. If he comes back next year, that's great. They still need a number one receiving target, somebody that they could just line up one-on-one and beg, he's going to cook 85% of the time. We'll take it. That's Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell are going to have to be locked in. They don't like someone that has to actually make them sweat a little bit. 800-year-old DeAndre Hopkins not really making them sweat right now. Juju Smith-Schuster not really making them sweat right now. Xavier Worthy making them sweat on 9 routes on those little swing passes. I'm talking about someone who can run a tree for you. Maybe Xavier Worthy can be that guy. They just did not use him that way at all this year. So I don't know, but it's very possible. So
They use him like Tyreek did. Yeah, they use Xavier like Tyreek. I would say, I also think this tells you how good Cooper DeJean had played, especially in the Super Bowl, because he was the guy matched up against Travis on 95% of those snaps. Like, that was him. He was the guy head up on Travis. If it wasn't him, then it was CJ Gardner-Johnson, who, congratulations, CJ. I won't make fun of you for a game because you played a great game and you didn't give in to Travis's trash talk. So congratulations, I guess. But yeah, I think that also is worth mentioning. Like, Cooper DeJean did do a fantastic job, and the Eagles in general did a fantastic job boxing up Travis Kelce, and that's not easy to do.
He was the highest rated cornerback by PFF on the entire NFL season, and we saw why for sure. And everyone who said he couldn't play cornerback for reasons, whatever reasons you want to call them, whatever pigmentation concerns you might have, I think he showed he can play that nickel corner, that safety role. They played him outside sometimes too. He's a versatile defensive back / football player. So he definitely made some noise there. But Let us know down in the comments below what you guys think. Where does Mahomes rank all time and what happens next for the Chiefs? But that's all for the gridiron talk that we have right now. That's going to now take us into the main event. And for the main event, we are going to head over to the hardwood. The NBA All-Star game is coming right around the corner, actually. It is by our next episode, it will be underway. So the best thing to do right now, let's give out a little bit of hardware. We consider this the NBA midseason awards, even though it's not really midseason, but you know what, close enough. So we've seen quite a few. We've seen a lot from these guys. We're going to start handing out some hardware. We're going to look at MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, and Coach of the Year. We're going to go back and forth. We're going to start from the bottom, work our way up. So we're going to go with Coach of the Year. I'm keeping mine quick and simple. Kenny Atkinson, Coach of the Cavs. That is the best team in basketball record-wise, the best team in the East record-wise. And really, they've actually looked like it too. It's not like they're just crushing cans. They do lose. They've beat OKC. They've also lost to OKC, the other best team. They've beat Boston. They've lost to Boston. They are competitive with all of the best teams. I believe they're like 40-something and 9, if I'm not mistaken. Like they are right up their best record in the NBA. Evan Mobley looks outstanding. Darius Garland looks outstanding. They've top to bottom. They have been absolutely incredible. So we're going to go with Kenny Atkinson, Coach of the Year. There's something in the water up in Cleveland when it comes to, new coaches. First, Stephen Vogt last year with the Guardians. Kenny Atkinson this year with the Cavs. Kevin Stefanski, look out, but I don't really blame you. Maybe they just need a new quarterback there, but that's another issue. So newbies in Cleveland are having some good luck. So maybe we'll see it come April. But Kelcey, how are we feeling for Coach of the Year for the NBA?
Yeah, maybe it's the Lake Erie water. You ever think
I will
about
not
that?
drink
Because
from it.
yeah, exactly. But somebody did, obviously, because it's working all along the lakeside. And that also includes my coach of the year, Detroit, JB Bickerstaff, former Cav, by the way.
The Irish.
Uh, yeah, doubled the wins for the Pistons already this year. And they're halfway through the season. They're just now to the All Star break, but double all of last year's wins. They had 14 last year, 28 already, 28 and 26, including a win over those Cavs you just talked about. On top of that, if you're coaching the most improved player, it means you're doing something as a coach as well. And that's saying something. Cade Cunningham looking fantastic this year. Probably should win most improved player without a doubt, unless he stops playing for the rest of the season. But yeah, I think right now what we're seeing from Detroit is something. They're a playoff team right now. They would actually be into the first round of playoffs and not have a play-in game today if the season was over. So yeah, I think the Pistons, JB Bickerstaff, that's the guy for me. I still don't blame JB for what happened here in the Cavs organization. I just think there was something going on here in Cleveland that they couldn't get over the hump. So, but yeah, hopefully in Detroit he has a little better success. So far, so good though.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? On top of that, Cade Cunningham looks every bit as advertised too, and I think that he is part of that for sure. But next up, we're going to go to Rookie of the Year. So Rookie of the Year, an interesting one since there isn't a Cade Cunningham per se or somebody that is blatantly standing out, but there are some good contenders. I'm going to go to the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm going to go with Jalen Wells, the second-round pick out of Washington State. About 11 points a game, 3 rebounds, a couple of assists, nothing outrageous, but he's also where he's been a big factor is on the defensive end. Marcus Smart has been out a lot for them this year. And honestly, the Grizzlies look good again. They look like Grindhouse. They look like 3 years ago before John Morant went full John Morant for a couple of years with injuries and tomfoolery when they were the number 2 seed in the West. They look like that team again, in part because of what he's offering for them defensively. Him, Desmond Bane, John Morant, he's a very good fit. I love what he's bringing. So I'm going to give it to Jalen Wells for a Rookie of the Year.
I like it. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the same team. I'm gonna go to the other rookie on that squad, the very tall rookie, the former Naismith Award winner, best college basketball player, and I stand by that the NBA needs to give those guys some respect because right now, not only did I talk about Cade Cunningham, I'm talking about Zach Edey, also a top 5 guy for Rookie of the Year right now. He's I think 3rd in the betting favorites right now to end up with a Rookie of the Year. Offensively, about 10 points a game, not giving you anything crazy, but for a rookie big man in today's day and age, I'll take it. It's the defensive work. It's cleaning the glass. It's setting Ja Morant up for doing Ja Morant things. That's what Zach Edey does well. Alongside Jaren Jackson and really freeing up Jaren Jackson. I wish that was a stat. I wish freeing up a player could be a stat in some way, shape, or form. I think that's a trackable stat in some way. That's what Zach Edey's really making a lot of his talents seen is just freeing it up for Jaren Jackson to go be a 3-4, not be a 5 every time, and actually go shoot a three at a high consistent rate. So yeah, give me Zach Edey as my rookie of the year. I think he's a very talented rookie. I don't think he's the best big man in the league, but he is a different style big man for today's day and age, and I respect that.
He definitely has a role, and he is playing it very, very well. And I think the trajectory is only up. So 2 really good picks by Memphis in the draft this year. Next, we're going to go to Defensive Player of the Year. I think we have the same one because I think it's pretty clear. Victor Wembanyama. The man had a standing block with his elbow without moving. He's had 10 blocks in the game. It's it's clear as day. I don't even think we need to spend too much time on this one.
Yeah, man, I haven't seen a block like that since when I was at the Boys and Girls Club coaching the basketball team, and I did it to a small 2 foot tall kid. That's what he made a grown man look like, and that's just I've never thought I'd see that in the NBA.
He is everything that I think Rudy Gobert got voted Defensive Player of the Year 4 times for. He is able to do everything that people thought Rudy Gobert was because he's actually versatile as a defender as well. So this isn't a Rudy Gobert hating episode. This episode's not long. It's a hating account, but not a hating episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is a Rudy Gobert hates account.
I just don't there's not enough episode left for that. So we both got Victor Wembanyama as Defensive Player of the Year. Now it's gonna take us to MVP, the rather highly contested MVP race, and I'm gonna go with the chalk pick on this one. I'm gonna go with Nikola Jokic, averaging a triple double right now: 30 points, 12.5 rebounds, 10 assists, 58% from the field. He's sitting fourth quarters at this point with triple doubles. Russell Westbrook looks like he's back at OKC or UCLA again. Everyone in LA told us he was washed and that he was trash and all of that. He's got him looking outstanding. Michael, he's got that entire team runs through Nikola Jokic to a T. He is. They say like those elite players have a gravitational force around, like a gravitational pull. That man's the sun at this point. He's pulling an entire solar system in Denver. He's been absolutely incredible. I know there's a lot of, even defensively, he's been really good. I know that was the knock, especially we had him for him early in this run of getting ridiculous amounts of MVPs. Is defensively wasn't always locked in. Right now he's playing defense for him. It's not a good defensive team, but he's playing good enough considering what he gives you offensively. He's been absolutely sensational. I'm almost at a loss for words. Every advanced statistic he's awesome at. The blatant statistics he's awesome at. You watch him for 24 seconds after 23.5 of elite defense. He hucks it over his head casually without even trying, and it goes in. He's the most frustrating player to guard I can only imagine. It's frustrating to watch if you're betting on him to hit the unders. He's just incredible. So give me Nikola Jokic, potentially pulling in MVP number 4 in 6 years, which is just bat-ish insane to say out loud.
Yeah. By the way, Nikola Jokic, nearly 7 points ahead of the next closest in total efficiency. He is 42.6 total efficiency. Giannis, next closest, 35.7. And then the next closest is the guy I'm going with, which is 33, which is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And it's not because of efficiency that I'm going with SGA. It is because SGA is currently scoring 32.6 points per game. Let me rephrase that for those that don't know that. 30 plus points per game at the end of the season as a points leader has only happened in the last 20 years 3 times, I believe, and not since 2008, 2007, 2008. It was Melo, I believe, was the last one to score over 30, or it was Russell, one of the two, and so maybe it was a little more recent. But
James Harden had about 35 a couple of years ago, but the same idea. Like
he's
on a ridiculous trajectory.
There's just something to be said about a guy playing on the second best team in the East, where some people could probably argue and say the best team in the East. I wouldn't disagree with you totally. In a young locker room where SGA is the leader in that locker room, and he's playing like the leader. He's playing like the most valuable player in the league. And again, we just saw it in the NFL. What is the difference between an NFL MVP and an NFL All-Pro? I kind of like Dan Orlovsky's explanation of it. And I'm going to use that right here as the reason why it's MVP. Most valuable player means if you pulled him off that team, would that team still be as good as they are? And if you pulled SGA off the Thunder are not near as good as the rest of the league. And that's where the impact comes for me. I think he is so good. If you put him on any other team, no matter where they fall, the Pistons, if you put him on the Pistons, that Pistons teams would be number 1 in the league. That's how good he is as a leader and as a point adjacent, I guess now. But as a just pure leader, shot taker, scorer, right now he seems to have everything going for him. And between him and Luka, the future is bright in the NBA. And I don't know which one's going to be the end up as the best, the face of the league. But right now, they're both good, and neither's American. So take that for what it's worth.
I'm going to add to your SGA thing with his points too. So since 2000, the only players that have averaged more points or even close to as many points per game is Kobe Bryant, who gave you 35 that one year and led them to the 7th seed with Smush Parker as his point guard, where it was
Oh, that's
just the
right. Yep.
Kobe show. James Harden's MVP season, where he averaged an asinine 36 points. James Harden in 1920, where he averaged 34 points, which I don't think was his MVP year. That was the one he got robbed of, where a lot of people,
Mhm.
or wait, that was the MVP season. The other one is the one people thought he got robbed of. Either way, same point is made there. Luka last year with 34 points per game. Most people thought he should have got MVP last year, or at least a lot of people thought he earned it last year. Joel Embiid a couple of years ago with 33 points, MVP. And then there's Shea at 32 and a half. So in that company, a lot of MVPs / all-time great in that category since 2000. Obviously, there's a lot of Michael Jordan, some Nate Archibald, way too much Wilt Chamberlain in there. So we're not going to go
I think
that
there's an
deep into the
Allen
well, but
Iverson
just since
somewhere in there
2000,
too.
that's some elite company.
Yeah, I think AI falls in that
He was in
category
like the
somewhere.
in the high low 30s.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good players in there, so you can't really go wrong with either one. I'd say that's an incredible duo to go for. I do think if things were to end right now, voter fatigue definitely might catch up to Jokic, unfortunately, which stinks. But that's what happens when a couple of your earlier ones, there might have been stronger candidates. It's just the cookie crumbles in very weird ways. But Jokic, SGA, give me either one of them. But I'll take both of them with a bag of fries, please. But before we get out of here, Kelcey, I'm gonna have you go ahead and wrap up your midseason NBA awards one more time for us.
Yeah, starting at the bottom, working my way up. Coach of the year, JB Bickerstaff. My rookie of the year is Zach Edey. Defensive player of the year, none other than Wemby, the alien himself. And then the MVP, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA. SGA president for sure.
And for me, I'll go and wrap mine up quickly. Coach of the year, we got Kenny Atkinson with the Cavs. Rookie of the year, Jalen Wells with the Grizzlies. Defense player of the year, surprise, surprise, Victor Wembanyama. And MVP, the Joker, Nikola Jokic himself, going for number 4. But that's what we have for NBA mid-season awards. That is now going to take us to Kelcey's favorite part of every show. And that is, of course, Crunch Time. And for Crunch Time, it's usually Kelcey's favorite part of the show. However, that thing might ending today. As everyone remembered, we started the series courting Kelcey a couple of weeks ago. As he searches for a new team to replace his once beloved Dallas Cowboys, we have asked all of you to send in videos trying to court him to your team. As long as it's PG-13, you can take any direction you want. We got an anonymous submission this week because, well, frankly, they probably don't want to be associated with this team after what has happened recently, unfortunately. So through the gift of song, we're going to present an anonymous vote to try and get you to join Chiefs Kingdom.
Are you ready to shake off being a Cowboys fan and find a place in this football world? Does rooting for this team every Sunday feel like death by 1,000 cuts? Tell Mr. Jones, look what you made me do, and that you are never, ever getting back together with that franchise. Sure, Dak is Mr. Perfectly Fine, and Trayvon Diggs gives up too many big plays like the foolish one he is, leaving you burning red. CeeDee's the one bright spot on that offense. When they hired Eberflus for DC, that was the moment I knew you'd be in the hunt for a new team and a better manager. The front office's poor decision-making is nothing new, and you can't fix them. No, really, you can't. New England may have been the last great American dynasty, but Chiefs Kingdom has a big reputation and surely your endgame. We knew he was a killer Trav the first time that we saw him, but now he's the king of our hearts and has us feeling so high school. And we knew Chris Jones would be trouble since the combine. Isaiah Pacheco's the bolter because as he's leaving the backfield, it feels like freedom. Be a lucky one and join Chiefs Kingdom, where we make the friendship bracelets, take the moment and taste it. You have no reason to be afraid. Come August, you'll be saying you're fresh out the slammer with a fresh sense of closure. Your cruel summers of anticipation are over. Chiefs aren't like all the teams you've loved before, and you won't have to support them with a broken heart.
All right, so you know what? That's one way to bounce back from a Super Bowl loss. I'm going to need something a little bit stronger than the water I've been dealing with after that one. Kelcey, I'm going to leave this one up to you because I need a moment.
I might need one of those myself. I don't think Magic Mind's going to get me through this one. That was impressive on so many levels. I don't even know what to say. Shout out Anonymous for that one. That's wow. Where do I start? I honestly don't even know anymore. I have no bad blood towards the Chiefs, so I'm good there. I don't know, man. They have my initials on their logo. I don't know if that's enough reason, but yeah. I mean, look, I don't. I'm so lost for words right now. I don't even know what to do with this. That was so impressive. It definitely launched the Chiefs from the bottom back to the top in consideration. Man, that's impressive. That was good.
Hey, you know what? We know a thing or two about rhymes and interesting wordplay. We know about that all too well around here. But remember, everybody, if you are interested in getting courting Kelcey to your team, be sure to send us a video 30 to 90 seconds long. You could take that particular route through the choice of song, I guess, or you could take any other route to try and get Kelcey to join your team. We will have all of them posted to our Instagram page as well as our second YouTube page, the HighLowSports Extra page. If you missed any or if you need some inspiration, or you just want to see Kelcey short circuit of some of these absolutely ridiculous pitches we are getting, or cast your vote. By the end of summer before next season, Kelcey will officially announce where he will be taking his fandom talents to. So he's on the recruiting trail. Definitely be sure to send us your videos and let us know where you think he should go. But that's going to do it here for the High Low Sports podcast today. We appreciate y'all for joining us. I am going to down with this drink to get me through what we just went through together as a team, but we will see you all again next week.